The sun filtered through the floral curtains, casting gentle patterns across the kitchen floor. Amelia Dawson stirred her tea absent-mindedly, the spoon clinking rhythmically against the porcelain mug. It had been her morning ritual for the past 5 years. Get up at 6 a.m. sharp, feed the cat, water the flowers, sip her tea in silence, and pretend like the world wasn't watching her fall apart from the inside out. Amelia lived in the quaint town of Evergrove, where everyone knew everyone, and everyone knew her story. They didn't need to ask questions. They whispered behind closed doors. She had grown used to the hushed tones, the sympathetic glances at the grocery store, the pity-soaked smiles from the postman. 5 years ago, her husband, Daniel Dawson, vanished without a trace. No note, no phone call, no body. Just gone. And the town never let her forget it. To the world, Amelia was the picture of quiet resilience. A middle school literature teacher who wore her hair in a tidy bun and kept her clothes neat, pressed, and modest. She was thoughtful and kind, always bringing in extra muffins for her students and volunteering at the church pantry on weekends. But inside, she was hollow, like a house stripped of its furniture, echoing with memories she couldn't stop hearing. Daniel had been her high school sweetheart. They married young, full of laughter and big dreams. He was a mechanic with a gentle heart and a mischievous grin. She used to laugh until her stomach hurt when he made up silly poems during dinner. But one ordinary Wednesday morning, he left the house to pick up some auto parts and never came back. The police searched. For months, Amelia answered questions, posted flyers, and walked miles around nearby woods, praying for even a clue. But nothing ever surfaced. His car wasn't found. His credit cards weren't used. His phone went dead that very day. It was like he had dissolved into the air. 5 years later, the case had gone cold, and so had Amelia's heart. Still, she went on with life. She kept the house, maintained the garden he had loved, and wore his wedding band on a chain around her neck. The people in town often asked her, "Have you thought about moving on? Or do you ever think about dating again?" And each time, she would give a practiced smile and say, "Some days are better than others." But deep down, she wasn't just waiting for closure. She was waiting for him, or at least the truth. Something strange had started happening about 3 weeks ago. It was small at first. The porch light flickered on and off every night around 2:17 a.m. Amelia assumed it was faulty wiring, but the timing was too precise. Then her cat, Willow, began acting odd, meowing at the front door at odd hours, as if expecting someone. Once, Amelia could have sworn she heard footsteps in the backyard, but when she peeked out, no one was there. She brushed it off as her imagination. After all, grief plays strange tricks. And yet, there was a growing itch in the back of her mind, like something had shifted, imperceptibly, but deeply. Last Sunday, while dusting the bookshelf, Amelia found something that hadn't been there the day before, a tiny brass key, old and slightly rusted, placed atop a copy of The Time Traveler's Wife. She hadn't touched that book in months, and certainly hadn't put any key there. She stared at it for a long moment, a chill rippling down her spine. It was the kind of key that didn't belong to anything in her house. And then, 2 days later, she received the letter. There was no return address, no name on the envelope. Just her full name written in familiar handwriting. She stared at it for almost an hour before opening it. The message inside was short and handwritten. "I never meant to hurt you. Please don't be afraid when you see me. There's so much you don't know. I'll come to you soon. D." Her hands had trembled so badly that she had to sit down on the floor. D. Daniel. It had to be him. But what did it mean? Where had he been? Why now? And what did he mean by "don't be afraid"? That night, Amelia couldn't sleep. Her heart pounded in her chest like a war drum. Every shadow in her house seemed alive. She replayed every memory of Daniel in her mind, his laugh, his scent, the way he kissed her forehead just before leaving that morning 5 years ago. Could he really be alive? Was this a cruel prank? The next day at school, she could barely focus. She fumbled through a lesson on Shakespeare, her voice distant and distracted. Her students noticed. "So, did the principal. You all right, Amelia?" he asked with kind concern. She nodded and smiled, the same tired mask she always wore, but her insides were unraveling. Back home, she searched through every drawer, every cabinet. She held the key in her palm and turned it over and over, hoping it would suddenly explain itself. It didn't. She placed it in the top drawer of her nightstand. By Friday, she felt like she was living on the edge of a dream. The letter, the key, the strange flickering lights. None of it made sense. And yet, it all felt deeply connected, like someone or something was slowly peeling back the curtain. She didn't know it yet, but her life was about to explode open like a thunderclap. All the quiet days, all the lonely nights, all the unanswered questions were leading to one moment, a confrontation with the impossible. That Sunday evening, the doorbell rang. Amelia froze in the hallway. Her heart pounded so violently she thought she might collapse. She hadn't been expecting anyone. Not a soul. Slowly, her feet moved toward the door. She opened it. And there he stood. Daniel. Older, worn, eyes heavy with unspeakable things. Her husband. Back from the dead. But before she could speak, he whispered, "I need to tell you everything. But you're not going to believe what I've been through." Amelia didn't move. Her hand still gripped the doorframe, her breath caught somewhere between shock and disbelief. The man standing before her was familiar, yet ghostly. His hair was longer, streaked with gray, and his face was thinner, carved with lines of worry and age. But it was him, Daniel. The same deep-set hazel eyes, the small scar above his brow, the way he shifted on his feet like he always did when nervous. "Can I come in?" he asked softly, as though afraid she'd slam the door in his face. She stepped aside wordlessly, unable to trust her voice. He walked in slowly, like a man returning to a sacred space. His eyes scanned the room, the framed photo of them on the mantel, the curtains she hadn't changed, the worn rug he used to trip on. "You kept it all the same," he murmured. "Where have you been?" she finally managed, her voice brittle, nearly breaking. Daniel turned to her with eyes full of torment. "It's a long story, and it's not simple. I had your face printed on milk cartons. I stood in front of the police every day for months begging them to find you. They told me you were dead," she said, louder now. Anger was rising fast, burning through the numbness. "I know," he said, lowering his eyes. "And I wanted to come back, but I couldn't. Not until now." "Couldn't?" "Daniel, what does that even mean?" she demanded. "Were you kidnapped? In danger? Did you lose your memory?" He paused before answering. "No. I remembered everything. Every single day. And I wasn't in danger. Not the kind you think." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something, a folded piece of aged paper. It looked ancient like parchment. She hesitated before taking it. Her eyes skimmed over the faded ink. Symbols. Circles. Lines drawn like maps or constellations? "What is this?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "I need you to trust me, Amelia. Please. I know this sounds insane, but I wasn't just gone. I was somewhere else." "Where?" she asked, her voice a whisper now. He exhaled slowly. "A different place. Not another country. Another reality. Another version of our world. One where time doesn't move the same." She stared at him like he'd lost his mind. "Are you saying you were in a parallel universe?" He nodded. "Yes. And I didn't go there by accident." She took a shaky step back. Her instinct screamed to run, to call someone, anyone. But a deeper voice inside her whispered, "Listen. After all, hadn't strange things been happening already?" "I never told you everything about my past," Daniel continued. "Not because I didn't trust you. I was trying to protect you. Years ago, before we met, I got involved with a group of researchers, fringe science, they called it. People who believed in portals, wormholes, time distortion. We were laughed out of academia. But we found something. A location. A doorway." Amelia's legs gave out, and she sank onto the couch, still gripping the strange paper. "You're saying you left through some kind of portal?" "I didn't plan to. I was trying to destroy it," Daniel said, his voice tight with pain. I found out the group wanted to use it, manipulate time, change history. I couldn't let that happen. So I tried to shut it down. And it backfired. I got pulled in, trapped. Her head was spinning. The rational part of her rebelled against every word, but the rest of her, the part that had lived through 5 years of inexplicable silence, felt something crack open. Why now? Why after all this time, she asked. I finally found a way back. But it came at a cost. The place I was in, it changes you. Time doesn't flow the same. For me, it was a year. For you, 5. I had to trade something to return. What did you trade? She asked slowly. Daniel looked at her with a haunted expression. Pieces of myself. Memories. I'll never remember my parents. My childhood. But I remember you. That was the only thing I fought to keep. Tears welled in her eyes. Daniel, this is unbelievable. This is impossible. I know, he said. But you have to understand, it's not over. That group, they never stopped. And they know I'm back. Her stomach dropped. You're saying someone's coming after you? He nodded grimly. And maybe you too. That key you found? It's a lock to one of their stations. I left it for you. I needed to know if you were still open. If you were ready to hear the truth. Amelia clutched the key tighter now, everything inside her whirling like a storm. What do they want from you? They want access. And they'll do anything to get it. Even hurt you. A long silence passed between them. Then, softly, she asked, So what happens now? Daniel took her hand. Now we find the others. The ones who resisted. We shut it down. For good. Outside, thunder rumbled low in the distance. Rain began to patter against the windows. The world had shifted, and nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, Amelia woke to find Daniel already dressed and staring out the window. His silhouette was rigid, as if he hadn't moved all night. The storm had passed, but something in the air still felt charged, heavy, like the calm before another quake. We need to go, he said without turning around. Go where? To the safe house. One of the last ones left. She sat up, rubbing her temples. A safe house? Daniel, I haven't even fully processed what you told me last night. He turned to her slowly. You don't have time to process it. They're watching now. Last night's return triggered something. I can feel it. Amelia sighed, standing to face him. And who exactly are they? The Echo Group, he said grimly. They started as scientists, philosophers, people hungry for truth. But it became obsession. They wanted to rewrite reality. They wanted to erase what they didn't like and replace it with their own design. She stared at him, almost numb. You're telling me there are people out there manipulating timelines? Yes, he said. And some of them aren't even from here anymore. They live in fractured versions of time, detached from the natural rhythm. They're dangerous, Amelia. And the worst part is they don't see anything wrong with it. A knock at the door made them both freeze. Daniel moved swiftly, silently, motioning her to stay behind the wall. He peered through the peephole, then relaxed slightly. It's Marcus. Marcus, she echoed. He opened the door to reveal a tall man with an angular face and wild eyes. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. Took you long enough, Marcus muttered as he stepped inside, glancing at Amelia. So, this is her? Amelia folded her arms. Excuse me? Daniel stepped between them. This is Amelia. And yes, she's the one who kept the key safe. Marcus looked her up and down. She doesn't look like much. Amelia raised a brow. And you look like someone who hasn't had a bath since last year, but I'm trying not to judge. Marcus gave a dry chuckle. She's got fire. Good. We'll need that. Amelia shook her head. Can someone please explain what this key really is? Daniel stepped forward. It's a tether, Amelia. To an anchor point. The Echo Group used these points to stabilize their jumps through timelines. Think of it like a lighthouse in the dark. Without it, they drift. Get lost. Some never come back. She glanced at the small, intricate metal key in her hand. Why did you leave it with me? Because I knew you'd keep it safe. And because I suspected they'd come after me again. If I didn't make it back, I needed to make sure someone would guard the last anchor. Amelia stared at the key. So, if they get it, they find the master gate, Marcus said. The central portal. The source of all the timeline fractures. And that would be bad? Daniel's expression darkened. Worse than bad. If they access it, they could rewrite history on a global scale. They could erase people, nations, events. Imagine a world where truth itself is manipulated. A long silence followed. I didn't sign up for this, Amelia whispered. Daniel reached for her hand. No one ever does. But the fact that you've kept that key for 5 years says more than you realize. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Then went out. The room plunged into darkness. Marcus was already moving. They're here.
How?
Amelia gasped. How did they find us? Daniel grabbed her arm. They track the key. Every time it's activated or touched with intention, it sends a signal. We must have triggered it last night. Why didn't you say anything? Because we didn't have time, Marcus snapped. The windows rattled. A low hum vibrated through the floor, like a pulse. The walls shimmered faintly, just for a second. What was that? She whispered. They're phase-shifting, Daniel said. Using energy fields to slip in from adjacent timelines. We have to go.
Now.
Marcus threw open the back door. Safe house is 20 miles out. We've got a car hidden in the woods. The trio bolted into the cold dawn. The air buzzed unnaturally, and every sound, birds, branches, wind, felt wrong, like an echo of itself. As they ran, Amelia's mind raced. What did it mean to guard time? To be chosen, not because of skill or knowledge, but because of loyalty? Daniel had always believed in things bigger than himself. Now she was being dragged into that belief, and somehow it didn't feel forced. It felt fated. Once inside the forest, they found an old SUV hidden beneath a camo tarp. They piled in, Marcus driving like a man possessed. We're gonna have to shake them, he muttered, swerving around trees.
How?
Daniel asked. Give her the anchor. What? Amelia turned sharply. Daniel reached into his coat and pulled out a second object, a glass vial with swirling blue liquid. Hold it, he said. She did, and instantly her mind expanded. Colors she couldn't name burst behind her eyes. Images of places she didn't recognize, people speaking languages she didn't know, but somehow understood. What is this? She gasped. The truth, Daniel said. And the price of knowing it. Suddenly, the air around the car shimmered. A figure appeared, humanoid but translucent, flickering like static. Its eyes locked onto Amelia. She felt her heart stop. Then it spoke. You were never meant to see this timeline. The car jerked violently as Marcus swerved. Daniel yelled, Amelia, drop the anchor. I can't, she screamed. Then suddenly, the shimmer stopped. The figure vanished. The vial in her hand had dimmed. Silence. They had passed through something. Some veil. She felt it. Daniel looked at her with wide eyes. You just shifted us to another layer. You broke through their lock. Amelia blinked. I didn't even know I could. You're more than a guardian now, Marcus said. You're a conduit. Amelia looked down at her trembling hands. And for the first time, she felt the weight of her purpose. The safe house was nothing more than a concrete bunker buried beneath a crumbling chapel in the forest. From the outside, it looked abandoned, lost to time and decay, but inside, it hummed with a low, protective frequency. The walls were etched with ancient glyphs, faintly glowing, pulsing in rhythm with Amelia's heartbeat. Marcus sealed the entrance behind them. This place is off-grid. No signals in or out. Even echo tech can't penetrate it. Amelia was still shaken, the vial's strange energy lingering in her bones. That thing. What was it? Daniel paced the room. A watcher. They're remnants of the original timeline, entities that exist outside linear time. They observe fractures, but rarely interfere. For one to speak, to confront you directly means something's changed. She shifted us, Marcus muttered. I told you, she wasn't just a keybearer. I didn't do it on purpose, Amelia said. But you did it, Daniel replied. That's all that matters now. She looked at the anchor. The swirling liquid had calmed, its glow now faint and steady. So, what does that mean for us? It means they're desperate, Marcus said. And when the Echo Group gets desperate, they stop playing by rules, even their own. Suddenly, a high-pitched ring filled the room. The glyphs on the wall flickered. Daniel's eyes widened. That's not supposed to happen. Marcus moved to a console hidden behind a panel. Something's overriding the frequency shielding. No one should be able to find this place, Daniel growled. Unless… They all turned to Amelia. I didn't do anything, she said quickly. But even as she denied it, she felt something move inside her, like a shift of gravity. A click behind her ribs. The vial was reacting. A flash of light erupted from the center of the room. When it faded, a man stood there. He wore a sleek, silver suit that seemed to shimmer with static. His face was calm, almost bored, but his eyes burned with something ancient and cold. Daniel, the man said. Still hiding in ruins, I see. Daniel stepped protectively in front of Amelia. Lucian. Amelia felt the name vibrate inside her skull like a code she was meant to remember. You know this guy? She whispered. He used to be one of us, Daniel said, before he chose power over purpose. Lucian smiled. Purpose is an illusion. Power shapes purpose. You should know that by now. You came for the anchor, Marcus said, pulling a small weapon from his coat. Lucian didn't flinch. I came for her. Amelia's breath caught. Me? Lucian stepped closer. You activated a quantum fold. You opened a pathway we've spent decades trying to breach. That key you carry? It's not just a tether. It's a catalyst. And only you can wield it now. Why? She asked, trembling. Why me? Lucian's eyes narrowed. Because you've remained uncorrupted. You've lived in the fracture, without breaking. That makes you dangerous. I don't want any of this, she said. Wanting is irrelevant, Lucian replied. You're already part of it. The question is, what side will you stand on when the veil falls? Daniel raised his weapon. She's made her choice. But Amelia stepped forward, past Daniel, locking eyes with Lucian. Her voice was firm. What do you want from me? Lucian tilted his head. A partnership. Join us. We can end the illusion of chaos. Imagine reshaping time to eliminate war, disease, poverty. We can create order. And erase freedom? She countered. Erase truth. Lucian shrugged. Truth is a tool. Just like memory. Just like time. No, she said. Truth is what makes us real. Lucian's face darkened. Then you've made your decision. He raised a device in his hand. The room exploded in light. When the light faded, Marcus was unconscious, bleeding from the temple. Daniel was on his knees, clutching his chest, gasping for breath. Amelia screamed, rushing to Daniel. What did you do to him? Lucian lowered the device. Temporal pulse. Collapses internal systems. Non-lethal, for now. Amelia stood, fury boiling in her veins. She held the key in one hand, the vial in the other. Lucian extended his hand. You hold the seed of every possible future. Give it to me and they live. Daniel looked up weakly. Don't do it. Tears streamed down her face. Her whole life had led to this, unknowingly preparing her for a choice she didn't ask to make. She thought of her father, of the night he disappeared, the secrets, the loss, the long years of not understanding. She stepped forward, then stopped. No, she whispered. I won't give you the key. Lucian's eyes flared. Then they die. Amelia raised the anchor vial and drank it. A blast of energy erupted from within her, knocking Lucian back across the room. Glyphs on the walls blazed to life. The bunker shuddered as timelines twisted, converged, and peeled apart again. She floated inches above the ground, light pouring from her eyes and fingertips. Lucian stared in awe and fear. What have you done? I've accepted what I am, she said, voice layered with echoes. I am not a key. I am the gate. Lucien tried to rise, but his body flickered, fragmenting like a corrupted video. You're unraveling the timeline. I'm restoring it, she said. With one final pulse of light, Lucien vanished, pulled backward into the very fracture he'd spent his life creating. The room fell silent. Amelia collapsed to her knees. Daniel crawled to her, wrapping his arms around her as she trembled. You did it, he whispered.
No, she said.
We did. The glyphs pulsed once more, then faded to stillness. The war for time wasn't over, but the tide had turned. The bunker was quiet now, lit only by the soft blue hue of the dormant glyphs. Outside, dawn began bleeding through the cracks in the old chapel, casting long rays of golden light across the dust-covered floor. For the first time since this strange journey began, Amelia felt the weight of stillness. Marcus lay on a cot, bandaged and breathing steadily. Daniel sat beside Amelia, his coat draped over her shoulders. They both stared at the now-empty pedestal where the anchor vial had once rested. You know, Daniel said softly, I've seen anomalies, ruptures, even time ghosts, but I've never seen anything like what you did. Amelia looked down at her hands, still faintly glowing at the edges. I didn't know I could do it. I just knew I had to. That's the thing about fate, he said. It doesn't ask permission. She chuckled, the sound light, but laced with exhaustion. So what now? I mean, I kind of destroyed the one thing keeping reality stitched together. No, he corrected gently. You became it. You didn't destroy the anchor. You are the anchor now. You carry the convergence point inside you. She turned to him. Is that why Lucien wanted me?
Partly.
He wanted to control the fold, shape the future to fit a single vision. But the future isn't meant to be owned. It's meant to be lived. And the Watchers? Will they come back? Daniel hesitated. They might. You caught their attention, and that's not easy to undo. But you also set something in motion. Something even they didn't expect. She stood, wrapping the coat tighter around her shoulders, and stepped outside the chapel. The forest was waking up, birds singing, trees stretching toward the light. The world felt real again, like it had remembered how to breathe. Daniel followed her. What you did, Amelia, it wasn't just brave. It was necessary. She glanced at him. My dad, do you think he knew all this would happen? I think he knew something was coming. And I think he believed you were the only one who could face it. A lump formed in her throat. I miss him. I know, Daniel said. But he's part of you. In the choices you make. In the strength you carry. You didn't lose him. You embody him. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She looked out over the horizon, the sky now painted with pinks and purples. For the first time in years, she didn't feel lost. She felt found. Behind them, Marcus groaned as he stirred. Daniel turned to check on him, but Amelia remained rooted in place. There was more to do, more to learn. The war for time wasn't over, but the narrative had shifted. And she, once just a girl haunted by unanswered questions, was now a living convergence point. A tether not just between timelines but between what was and what could be. She breathed in deeply, letting the crisp morning air fill her lungs. I'm not running anymore, she whispered to the wind. A soft breeze wrapped around her, as if the universe was listening, as if it understood. And for the first time, Amelia felt not like a piece in someone else's story, but the author of her own. The past may have been fractured, but the future? It was hers to write. 3 months later, Amelia sat in the same cafe where she used to wait for Marcus, a small, quiet spot tucked away on a cobbled street corner in the old part of town. The world moved slower here, like time respected the space. She sipped her tea and flipped through the journal her father had left behind. Page after page, she discovered notes, maps, equations, not just about fold physics but about her. Drawings of her as a child, with lines of protective runes carefully traced beneath each sketch. It was clear now, her father hadn't stumbled into the fold by accident. He had been preparing her all along. Daniel walked in, carrying a brown envelope. Special delivery, he said with a small smile, handing it over. Amelia raised a brow. From who? No name. Just said you'd understand. Inside was a single photograph, old and faded, black and white. It showed a much younger Lucian standing beside her father. They were smiling. Behind them was a wall of symbols, the same glyphs she had activated at the anchor site. Amelia's breath caught. She flipped the photo over. A handwritten note in her father's handwriting read, "He was my brother. I tried to save him. I hope someday you can too." Everything inside her stilled. Lucian was her uncle, the man who had hunted her, threatened Marcus, and nearly collapsed the entire fold was her father's own flesh and blood. That's why he knew her so well. That's why he wanted her power, because it ran through both their veins. The realization struck like lightning. This wasn't over. It had never truly been about just one convergence or one fracture. This was generational, a legacy born of bloodlines and betrayal. "I need to find him," she whispered. Daniel leaned forward. "Are you sure?" "I'm not going to let this cycle continue. I won't let him twist the fold again. But maybe he can be saved." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then we find him. Together." She stood, her heart steady. The world outside the window shimmered, a subtle ripple only she could see. Another fold. Another story. But this time, she wouldn't wait for fate to come knocking. This time she would walk into it.